Welcome to RPG Book Club ShortCast, a podcast where we play a big bit of a little video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Maddie Grace Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. I thought I was doing a joke there, but I couldn't think of one.
I mean, if you ask me, Guns of the Patriots is a joke.
Jugs of the Patriots.
I actually think Guns of the Patriots is probably really cool. I want to revisit it.
Yeah.
And today we'll be playing the second portion of Metal Gear Solid, covering up until we kill Sniper Wolf.
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. You kill a boss in this game. So far, I think we only have killed 2, and both of them happened this week, but still.
Felt like about 6 with how long it took, though.
Yeah. But before we dive into tonight's games, it's time to name 3 things, and tonight we are going to name 3 video game weapons.
Halo pistol.
I figured you'd be into that one.
Halo pistol's really good.
What more is there to say? Halo 1, to be clear.
Yes, of course, obviously.
Yeah. My Halo choice was the Needler, because the Needler's just...
It's a great gun.
It's so good.
Is it actually effective, or is it just cool looking?
It's quite effective in most of them. In Halo 2, it's ridiculous because it's on the dual wield list.
Yeah.
And they are homing things that also explode if you get enough of them in your guy. So you just aim kind of good and hold down both triggers, and they get...
When I was a child, me and my brothers and I always thought that the Needler in Halo 1 was like a severely underpowered weapon, such that if someone killed you with the Needler, it was almost like a diss, right? Mm-hmm. To kill someone with a Needler, or like a flex. Mm-hmm. As an adult, I go back and play that game, and I don't know where we got that idea. I guess we were just too stupid to use the Needler properly, because if you get enough needles in them to make them blow up, it kills them instantly. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of hard to do that, but it's all about strategic positioning and stuff. Maybe it's because it's a weapon that prioritizes strategic movement and map knowledge and surprising your opponent more than can you aim good. So we were just too stupid to understand that, maybe. Needler owns. In later games, they made it a straight up power weapon, which I didn't like as much.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that was a good choice, to make it like a rocket launcher, right?
Yeah. I think it peaked in Halo 2, and that's when I love it.
If we're talking Halo weapons, the sword and or the hammer are really fun.
Oh, the hammer's so much fun. Let's see.
My main one I wanted to bring up was the axe from God of War 20 whatever.
Ooh, yeah,
that's a good one.
You can call it back to you and use strategic movement and stuff.
Yes, it feels so good, and the controller thumps when it hits Kratos' hand, and you throw it and hit people as you throw it, and it then you call it back and hit someone else on the way back, and it feels so good.
This is a hard question because there's so many great video game weapons.
Video games are violent.
Here's one I'm going to go with. There are innumerable contenders in Bloodborne. Sam, you don't know this, but maybe you do. But in Bloodborne, most of the weapons transform. They have 2 different modes, and also in that game, as a modification to the Souls game formula, you can have 2 weapons equipped at once, and you can kind of do a quick change between them. So each of those weapons, though, also can transform. So it's this is a cane that transforms into a whip, right? Okay. And the whip is low damage and it's used for spacing and stuff, but the cane is different. And they also all have transformation attacks. So this is an attack you use that in attacking also makes the weapon switch. It's very cool. But actually, so the point is, every weapon in that game is incredible. If we were actually ranking the best of all time, it might just all be Bloodborne weapons. But the one I go with is my favorite one. It doesn't transform, and it's the Tonitrus. Bernard, do you remember the Tonitrus?
No, not off the top of my head.
it's basically just a little mace, which mace is what you call it's like a club with a steel spiky ball on the end, right? That's a mace.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking at it now. It
And
doesn't
if
have
you-
spikes on it.
Well, whatever. It's like a little mace. And but the button for change weapon, instead of changing weapon, you kind of shake it, and it makes like a nice, satisfying like sound. And just like one of those emergency flashlights, shaking it causes it to become electrified.
Ooh.
And it's now electric for like X amount of time, right? So that's kind of the transformation, is you can just make it be electric, and then it does hella damage and shocks things until it runs out. And I think it might have like a charge or something like that. And that's it. It's a very simple weapon, but it became like easily my main weapon. And if I needed to do anything else that weapon wouldn't really cover, well, guess what? You can also just switch to a different weapon with a pretty quick button press. I love the Tonitrus, but also it's a stand-in for every weapon in Bloodborne.
Nice.
Bloodborne owns. They should remaster that. It's weird that they haven't.
When does Bluepoint do it?
I mean, they don't need to remake it. They just need to,
Oh, just
put it in 4K
like
60.
Okay, yes, that would be fine. I would love that.
Yes, go ahead.
So I have a slightly topical one. The Nikita from Metal Gear Solid is one of my favorite weapons of all time, and it's has so been
good
ever since VR missions. The only Metal Gear I played as a kid, really. I watched my brother play 1 and 2, but I played myself a shitload of VR missions, and all the Nikita missions in VR missions are badass. It's a really fun gun.
And the Nikita's been in there since the very first game.
I watch one streamer, and sometimes she plays Smash Brothers, and sometimes when she plays Smash Brothers, she plays a snake. And it's interesting seeing someone who's good at Smash Brothers actually use the Nikita against humans, because I'm like, that seems hard.
Oh yeah, I forgot you even had that weapon. To talk a little more of the Nikita weapon. It's really good. They always come up with fun little situations for it, but also something I hadn't realized till today while playing the game. In the final part that we're going to talk about today, you can use the Nikita, of course, and I'm realizing in Metal Gear Solid 1, you can't walk around in first-person mode. So most of the game is walking. Like, the game does a lot with its very constricted ways of seeing and moving. The Nikita missile in its first-person mode is the only way to move around and explore this game's 3D environments in first person.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that neat? Not just look, but to be able to look first person while moving. If you want to get a feel for what it would be like to walk around these places, the only way to do it is through the eyes of a Nikita missile.
That's hilarious.
I almost want to go back to the earlier levels and fire a Nikita and fly it around just for the sake of getting that extra perspective on the game. In our modern world of every game having fully 3D rotatable cameras, it's always really unique to play a game where you don't have that. So to realize that you could, I almost want to go and Nikita up the whole game now. It's a great weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Doom shotgun.
Doom shotgun.
Doom shotgun.
Doom shotgun.
It's good. It's good.
It's real good.
It's like, it's pretty much there is the pistol, but it's pretty much your basic weapon in that game, but that doesn't mean it's not so incredibly fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of what my third one's going to be. I know we don't say it's got to be the best, but I'm trying to think of something really, really good, to really, like, well, Sam, you still got a third one you got to say, Sam.
Yeah. I was torn between picking a good one and picking a bad one. And so I landed on a good one, but I picked the Monado because when the game starts and they're like, none of your other party members can do shit, only the Monado can hurt the bad guys. I was like, oh, this is going to be not fun. And then it became incredibly fun and actually awesome that you had to like set up your party members for success. And it's a big sword, big laser sword.
Yeah, video games are full of so many great weapons, but I think I might go with this is a twofer, and they're very similar. I feel like there's a lot of guns out there that are like, not just guns, but like weapons where it's like, what if this offensive weapon was also a defensive weapon somehow? And that's always my favorite. In any game, it's always my favorite. And I feel like there's a best version of that out there somewhere that I can't think of right now. But the two that I can think of, actually one of them is, first of all, the gun from Ziggurat. One of the all-time greatest weapons. The fact that
Ziggurat for iOS.
Ziggurat by Action Button Entertainment. Not playable in any way.
You won't.
Not playable in any way right now. It's dead. It's really a shame. The only way you'd be able to play it is if you had an older Apple thing with iOS that still had the game on it. It's really a shame. In that you hold down the screen, but let's just say the button. You hold down the button to charge it, and it has 4 levels of charge, or perhaps 3. And it goes like this as you hold it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. So it only has a split second when it has its maximum charge. And if you wait too long, if you miss that window, it goes back down to its level 3 charge. But then it does stay at level 3 charge. And that's still, like, good. But not only does each level of charge make it a bigger bullet, it also fires it with more force, which means it fires it more straight and less prone to gravity, because the game's in 2D. So if it's level 1 or 2 or 4, or 3 maybe, it goes in like an arc. And especially level 1, it's like a piddly little arc. Whereas if it's the maximum level, it's like a straight line blast at whatever you're aiming it at. But it's also a shield, because if you're holding it right in front of you and the enemy bullet hits it, it just gets absorbed into the bullet. So oftentimes in the game, when there's a bunch of bullets coming at you, you'll hold down the ball of your weapon and just kind of like sweep it in front of you, right? To kind of just like scoop up an enemy bullet. Or an enemy is a one-eyed alien freak. The alien bastards who killed everyone else are trying to kill you, and they jump right at you. And instead of having to shoot them, you just point your gun in their direction and they blow up, which is really fun and really satisfying. But in a similar vein, the regular, whatever you call it, the power beam in Metroid Prime, you can't use it as a shield, but I like how when you charge up the power beam, if you recall, it will gravity suck pickups towards you. Absolutely adore that. Something about having a gun where if you hold it down or press a certain button, it becomes some other function that isn't shoot. Especially if it's holding down, because you know what makes it so special if you hold down? After you're done with it doing whatever it's doing besides shoot, you can then let go and then shoot somebody. The physicality of holding something and then letting go is just so much fun. So I'm sure there's other guns out there that are an even better version of what I'm thinking of, but I can't think of what they are. So shout out to that whole concept.
Yeah.
I want to shout out, I looked up the name of it, the Lancer assault rifle from Gears of War, because
I thought of that one.
One, it's a gun with a chainsaw on it, and that's so epic. Epic games. But 2, it has all the weapons in Gears of War have this, but the active reload was such a great mechanic. Where in order to reload properly, you have to press the button twice with proper timing. It forces you to be present and mindful and calm in the middle of really hectic situations, and it's like when in the horror movie someone's trying to start their car but they can't get the keys in because they're scared. Yeah, man, Gears of War is full of all-timer guns. It's it has that mechanic that I like again. It's hell, maybe it was a direct inspiration for Ziggurat, maybe it was. If you recall, it's dynamite crossbow. You hold down the button, and as you hold down the button, the aiming reticle slowly goes from like piss stream arc to pointing straight as you draw the string back, and you want to get the timing just perfect. And it's very difficult to aim, but it's fine because it destroys anything in one hit.
it just annihilates enemies, and it's very hard to aim. It's so good. Gears of War owns.
I really want to replay the old Gears of Wars and play the new Gears because they're just called Gears now.
Yep. Now that I've moved into my new home, me and my girlfriend have been consolidating a lot of our stuff and realizing we don't need a lot of this stuff. You think, shouldn't you have done that before you moved? Well, yeah, we're focusing on moving. That anyway, so like we got rid of some of our video games because either we both owned a copy or they sucked, or they didn't suck in an interesting enough way. But part of it just reminded me of all the games that I own, and like I'm like, man, I want to replay all these PS2 games so bad. I want to replay all these Xbox and Xbox 360 games so bad. And Gears of War is 1 and 2 is definitely on the list of shit, man. I want to replay these games so bad.
Yeah, I love Gears of War. I'd love to play it someday.
It's amazing how it's like the poster child for like dumb, meat-headed, like unintelligent, unsophisticated, stupid, like I know I'm just saying the word stupid in 5 different ways, but just like a particular brand of like not really worth anyone's time or energy, dumb broy video. Like it's like the kind of game that would be like a fake game made up in a Law and Order episode, or a like about like a serial killer or whatever. It's like, but no, it's like no. This is one of the most sophisticated and just jaw-droppingly like crafted video games you've ever played in your goddamn life.
I mean, the thing is, there were a lot of games like that at the time, and Gears of War looks enough like that, and it was the one everyone knew because it was very popular. So it sort of absorbed that identity, even though it's, as you said, very sophisticated. And
even its like plot and characters and writing is actually really well done, even though it is definitely about a bunch of soldier guys shooting alien bugs.
Speaking about soldier guys shooting things, we should probably talk about Metal Gear Solid now.
Good job.
Yes.
So let's listen to some Metal Gear Solid music, and then we'll dive right in.
Speaking of diving right in, this whole time I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 1, I've been wanting to do Snake's dive and roll that he has in Smash Brothers.
Yeah, I know that MGS1 has a much more simplistic gameplay than later games, but like I know he can't flip over a ledge in this game. I know he can't shoot guns in first person except for 2 of them in this game. I know he can't do all these things, but I do forget he doesn't have the dive roll.
Mm-hmm.
I only barely remember the dive roll, and I've been trying to do it constantly in this game.
Maybe it's just because, unlike every other thing that this game doesn't have, maybe it's just because that would make sense in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you totally could do it.
There's a lot of situations where I do want to do it. So like, unlike every other mechanic where the game's levels and like it's you know, you don't need to fire in first person. That would ruin the game. But it's like, no, a dive roll would be pretty good, actually.
I wonder if Twin Snakes added a dive roll.
Maybe.
Well, it has MGS2's mechanic, so probably.
Yeah, but I know it added first person, and it does ruin the game.
Fun fact, in MGS2, I'm just going to tell Sam this because who knows when you'll ever play MGS2, I might as well tell you now, right?
Probably the moment you roll credits on Metal Gear Solid 1. I'm really, really enjoying this game.
I'm so glad you finally gotten Metal Gear pilled. I'm really happy about that. I didn't totally realize that.
I've always been a Metal Gear poser. I've always been I know. These are great, but I could not play it properly, and it finally clicked. So
I'll tell you, though, in MGS2, as soon as you can, aka in the Tanker mission, try dive rolling up a staircase, Because if you try diagonally up a staircase, that doesn't make any sense that would work, and it definitely causes Snake to like flop on his face in a really, really funny way.
That's so good. Love that shit.
I was gonna say there's lots of funny, stupid stuff in that game, but it's a Hideo Kojima game, so
there's a lot of good ways to get owned in this week's portion of the game as well. I know because I got owned by most of them.
All right, so last time we met Otacon, who is the engineer behind Metal Gear, and we both decided that we have to go and destroy it, so we're going to attempt to do that today. Snake calls Meryl to get
I don't think we actually covered the conversation with Otacon, but that pretty much covers it.
Except, well, but there is one very important thing, and we didn't. We actually stopped after so like Cyborg Ninja yeets out of there. And then Otacon comes out of his locker and we talk to him, and we didn't cover that. So we meet a lot about. So there is one important thing we got to say. We meet Otacon. Who is he? He's the head engineer for the Metal Gear project. One important thing we learned is that he does not know that this thing is designed to fire nuclear missiles. He just thought he was making a cool robot that could fight good. He didn't know it could fire nuclear missiles. He thinks it fires normal missiles. He also is like, wait,
which is fine.
Well, but he also is like, wait, but like nothing on Metal Gear would allow it to fire a nuclear missile. Well, I think it's even just like I think it's like defensive missiles anyway, right?
Yeah,
like
it's designed to shoot down nuclear missiles only for defensive purposes.
Yeah,
is what he says. I have the script up.
So he is like shocked, right? Like I wouldn't have made a weapon that could fire nukes. This is just supposed to be a robot that is good at being used in the field and can get rid of nukes. And the reason why this is such a funny shock is, remember how last time around our top 3 was top 3 dads and it was Father's Day? Well, it was because this game has a recurring thing about dads, but ironically none of it came through in last episode because we didn't get there. So Otacon reveals that his grandfather was involved with the Manhattan Project, and that he regretted it for the rest of his life or whatever. And then he says that his father was born on the day that the bomb dropped on Hiroshima. There's a lot of other things he fails to say about his father.
You can say a lot about that guy,
which we mentioned last time. How his father is in the prequel games and is one of the bastards of all time. But in this game, he's just was born on the day that the bomb dropped. So he talks about how his family must have the curse of nuclear missiles in their DNA, which is both the game's theme of nuclear missiles and nuclear disarmament, but also the game's theme of DNA and
fate
and fate and destiny, right? Anyway, then he says that we've got to shut it down, and I don't think he gives us anything new. He just reiterates that we do, in fact, have to use the 3, like, special keys in order to shut it down. And Snake's like, I just have one, and Otacon's like, okay. And
no, Snake doesn't have the key yet, right?
No, we get it from Meryl in a bit.
Oh, okay, well, whatever. Okay, we find out there's 3 keys that'll shut down the thing, right? And also that, if that'll shut it down, and also that the terrorists need these 2 codes, and it seems like they already have the codes, so therefore we either need to shut it down or blow it up. I'm pretty sure that's it. Cool. But yeah, I wanted to make sure we didn't miss the themes there.
And also we do need to establish this guy is named Hal Emmerich. He introduces himself, and he wants a cool code name, so he calls himself Otacon, which stands for Otaku Convention.
It stands for Otaku Convention.
Which is amazing. He got into science and stuff because of his Japanese animes.
He literally decided to make robots because he was into, like, Gundam and shit. And he has a poster of police knots in his office, which is really funny.
And
also, at some point he asks someone, I think it's when he... Why does he ask Snake this? At some point he looks at Snake and he goes, are you an otaku too?
Because Snake says he works alone.
That's right! Also, I am going to go ahead and say this is not conjecture. This is a fact that Kojima said later in an interview. Otacon is supposed to be a stand-in for the player. So the fact that the first thing you see is he's a coward. He pisses himself in the closet. He says, "Oh, you're lonely. You must be an otaku like me." Every single Otacon sucks so bad, and it is literally Hideo Kojima making fun of gamers.
And, I just want to make sure we need to establish he has a cloaking device, the same kind that the ninja has.
Yeah, so he can run around and help us out. I think at certain points in the game, if there's like a room that has nothing in it, you can call him and he'll say, "Okay, I've delivered some rations to that room. You can go get them now." I never made use of that, but I think that's he actually has a gameplay function. It's just kind of limited in its use. He has other functions that are later, but that's just something I think there's some way you can do that. Because he even said, he's like, if you need supplies or anything, I'll bring them to you. But it's like, there's a few, like, empty office rooms in the game, and it's like, oh, those are the places where Otacon will bring you supplies.
Weird. Yeah, that would have come in really, really handy because I had to save scum the high and D fight because I had literally 1 hit worth of damage and no rations.
Oops.
So, yeah.
Skill issue.
So yeah. Snake calls Meryl on the codec and tells her to take care of Otacon, but partway through the phone call, she has to run away back into hiding, so we have to go and find her. We can't call her anymore. If you try, it just goes busy signal. So Otacon gives us his whatever next level, I think it's level 5 at this point, key card, and then he turns invisible and runs off, so we can make our way back to the first basement floor that we were at earlier where the dude keeps pissing, and now there's a third dude walking around. And if you look closely, you can see that one of the dudes is caked up ass for days, not a piece of ass, but the whole damn pie of ass, just like Snake. So if you follow it,
slightly less ass than Snake. But.
Yes. So when
more
ass than Smash 5 Snake.
Yes. I will say, more importantly, is that regardless of her amount of ass, she like extremely exaggeratedly femininely sachets her hips side to side as she walks.
Mm-hmm.
And we said earlier that the close-up shot of her hips wiggling was going to be it was going to have a mechanical importance, and it's so you can identify her here.
Yep.
Yes.
Not that you need to know that. You can also just hide next to the women's room because she's the only woman soldier. You can just hide next to the women's room and wait for her to show up. But whatever. Oh yeah, that's a whole thing. And they're like, we need to be alone with her. Where could we possibly be alone with a woman? Where's somewhere only women can go? Also stolen from Metal Gear 2. Fun fact, the men's and women's restrooms, if you try to go in the men's restroom, the door opens automatically. There's no key card. Try to go to the women's restroom, it doesn't open automatically, and it's like, how do they know? I could say that the thing reads your DNA because DNA and fate is such a theme of this game, but that would be very transphobic.
Also, there's this game has so many, like, I don't know how they put this much shit in the game, but there's all these little things where if you call a certain person at a certain time, you'll have a unique conversation. And if you follow Meryl into the restroom, the scene doesn't start immediately. If during that time you call, I think it's Mei Ling or Nastasha.
Any of the women, yeah.
Yeah, they'll be like, Snake, what are you doing in there? And he's like, Meryl came in here. And they're like, so you followed her into the restroom? He's like, I had to, whatever. I can't remember the exact lines, but it's funny.
Yeah, and like, after the cutscene where you talk with Meryl in a second, Snake and Meryl both exit the women's room in the course of the cutscene, and you can never go back. So literally, you have like a 1 second long. It takes like 1 second to run from the entrance to the women's room to the trigger for the cutscene, and it's like, yeah, that's the amount of time you have to think to call someone and get completely unique voiced dialogue. Otherwise, you don't get to have it. It's so cool.
Konami was wild.
I actually missed it. I've never gotten this conversation because I always forget until the second the cutscene starts.
I didn't get it either. I just had brought up a Metal Gear Solid the movie on YouTube, and then the algorithm started serving me shorts about Metal Gear Solid, and I started clicking on them because they would look interesting. It'd be like, did you know about this weird secret dialogue in Metal Gear Solid? And I'm like, no, I didn't.
The game also has a lot of very unique Easter eggs and behaviors and mechanics involving all of its weapons. The thing is, a big theme of the game is nonviolence, and the game gives you a high score for not killing anybody, so I never get to enjoy or have fun with all the weapons and all of the very interesting and cleverly programmed, bespoke, funny little things that they put in the game. I don't know how any of them work.
Yeah. So, what do you think that? Well, never mind. The plot of the game is that Shadow Moses Island was just like a regular ass place, and then the Genome Soldiers came and infiltrated it. Right? It's not a secret base for these guys. They were always using it as a nuclear doing bad stuff facility. They were making Metal Gear there the whole time.
Yeah, I was supposed to give y'all some twists last time from the briefings that none of y'all watched.
No, I watched them. I always watch them.
Okay, well, there's one very important thing that we didn't discuss, which is in this game, we know that Snake went into retirement at the end of the previous game, and in this, they've pulled him out of retirement for one last job.
It's not going to be the last one.
One of three last jobs.
One thing that those of y'all listening won't know, because we didn't discuss it last time, is when they say pulled out of retirement, they don't mean the Colonel showed up at Snake's door in the Alaskan wilderness, where he's a musher, and said, Snake, I know you're surprised to see me, but we're pulling you back. We want you to come back to do one last job. No, they kidnapped him.
Yeah.
Literally, Snake was asleep. Some people kidnapped him. He woke up in a concrete room with cameras, naked, got briefed, and that's the context of the briefing scenes, got briefed on the mission and then forced to go on it at gunpoint. That gives the whole game a very different vibe, and you don't get that if you didn't watch the briefing.
That's weird.
There's a lot of other stuff too, but that's also there's going to be some references this time to Meryl being, we already covered this, I think, actually. Meryl being the Colonel's niece, and that's not news to Snake because he learned it in the briefing.
Yeah. So the reason I brought it up is if this was just the big evil base, all of the Genome Soldiers are clones. So they're all dudes. That's why we know the only person who would go into the women's restroom is Meryl. The only woman on Foxhound's payroll is Wolf. The restroom is huge. Imagine just how luxurious having this huge ass restroom all to yourself.
I mean, shit. I mean, you know what? That would just be justice, because most places are the fucking opposite, man. In my UPS sub where I work, there's 10 men's restrooms and 2 women's restrooms. There's actually 3. I found a third one recently. I didn't know it was there.
A secret third restroom.
I have to walk so much farther to go to the restroom. And I get it. They're a lot fewer women work for this company than men. It's then just, I don't give a shit. That's stupid. So I respect them for having equal-sized men's and women's restrooms, despite the fact that there's one woman on the entire island.
So yeah, as we mentioned, all into the ladies' restroom, and it's Meryl. Snake makes some comment that's not even an actual come on, and she says, "Don't hit on me. I have psychotherapy to eliminate my interest in men." And then the two of them flirt heavily for the rest of the game. Credits. that's the rest of the game. But two supposedly asexual people have very sexual tension for the rest of the game. So Snake notices that she has a Foxhound fake tattoo, and she says that she was always a fan of Foxhound back in the day when Snake and her father were in it, when they were real heroes. Snake says that there are no heroes in war, and if there were, he's not one. She asks how the negotiations are going, and he says that they've stopped, and so now they have to either destroy Metal Gear or override the detonation code. He asks her for the card keys because she's supposed to have all 3 of them, but she only has one of the 3, and she doesn't even know where the other 2 are. So
I hope it's
I think
not
she may have not
something
even known.
stupid.
Yeah, I think she may have not even known that there were 3.
Yeah.
She's like, huh, there's 3? Well, anyway,
Yes.
here's mine.
She just says, "This is all I've got."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they have to work together and look for the keys, and they decide to go together. Meryl promises to not slow Snake down.
She also has a weird scene where she talks about how she's not like other girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, she always wanted to be a soldier, but then she says that actually she was just chasing her dad's dream and that she needs to be her own person. It's funny. It's like all these characters have plots, and I love this game, and I feel weird being like, this character's entire arc doesn't matter. But sometimes it's like the themes of the game are not about. Actually, I guess the themes of the game are kind of about deciding who you are as a person and following your own path, whatever. For some reason, I never found Meryl's thing very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
maybe it's because it comes too early in the game. Like, you're not totally bought into this game's bullshit yet.
It's funny that you say that, because I had taken my breath to read this paragraph of my notes that starts with, "There's a really beautiful scene where Meryl talks about," and both of y'all dunked on it. So never mind.
Sorry.
Never mind. It's stupid too.
It's a good scene. It's just funny how she says, "I don't use makeup the way other women do," and I'm like, wow, you're not like other girls, are you?
When I say it's not important, I guess what I'm saying is, like, I'm not one of those people who's like so wiki-brained, or I'm like, why was this scene in the movie? It didn't further the plot, It's like, no, sometimes a scene is just a beautiful scene, regardless of what it means. But, like, from the point of view of writing like, if I was writing the notes to this game, I would just be, this isn't important, let's move on, which is just funny, because it is really good.
Yeah. So, she says that we have to go through the commander's room down the hallway, and she gives us her level 5 card. So I guess Otacon gave us level 4. She gives us her level 5 card to let us in. But as soon as we get into the commander's room, Meryl's head starts pounding, and she grabs it, and she collapses to the floor, and there's a whole bunch of, like, video glitch outs and shit. And Snake is like, "What's wrong?" And then she stands up, and her voice sounds like she's speaking through a gas mask suddenly, and says that everything's fine. Come on through this door. It's not a trap.
She says normally.
So we head through the door, certain that it's not a trap. And then she starts begging Snake to make love to her, which we know that she's been psychotherapied into being asexual, and Snake has admitted to being asexual. So they know that Snake knows that something's up. Then we see an absolute fucking freak in a gas mask and a leather gimp suit, like, floating above the floor right behind Meryl, controlling her like a puppet.
A true fucked up little guy.
Yeah, absolutely just insane little freak of a man.
And
the Colonel,
we say that he is the same, like, height as Snake, but no, he's a little freak.
Yeah, he's a little freak.
And
you know what we mean.
For the record, I'm not saying, like, wearing a gimp suit and being weird is, like, I'm not trying to, like, kink shame or anything. I'm saying that this guy's vibes are rancid.
Yes. in a little bit, he'll take off the gas mask, and Meryl literally goes, "Oh God!" So yeah, this is a little freak of a man.
He's by far the most memorable character in the game, and he's also a absolute rancid freak of a man.
So the Colonel calls us on the codec, and he begs us not to hurt Meryl, so we just punch her lights out.
Because Meryl was not just asking Snake to have sex with
a gun.
He was also pointing a gun at him. So, the Colonel wasn't just calling saying, "Hey, my niece wants to have sex with you. Knock her out."
Yeah.
So knocking Meryl out makes the Doug Jones looking motherfucker really mad. So he introduces himself as Psycho Mantis, who is an actual telekinetic. He can read thoughts and control shit with his mind, and this game suddenly became a Metal Gear Solid game.
Yep. Little fact I'll insert here. Later games, specifically MGS4, is infamous for retconning all the supernatural shit in the series as being just nanomachines.
Mm-hmm.
Psycho Mantis is never retconned as being nanomachines, which I really respect. He's a psychic guy, and at no point does the game even try to pretend like he wasn't a psychic guy.
Yeah, it's great. So
MGS4, if I remember correctly, actually doubles down on psychic stuff being real.
That's cool.
Kind of.
That's why I said if I remember. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Moving on. So he can read Snake's thoughts, and he does some really cool, extremely Metal Gear fourth wall breaking, where he talks about your stats so far, and it changes the dialogue that he has. If you have a DualShock controller, he'll set off the vibration to make it move on your table. I forgot about that part because I was playing on the Steam Deck.
Controller using the power of my will alone.
Yeah.
I love it. I adore it.
I was playing in digital mode because the game's on a grid and it makes more sense in digital mode. So I had forgot about that part until I was watching the game movie. But
also, he says amazing things such as, "So you like as your dreams?"
Yeah, he reads your memory card and tells you what games you like. He also says a
They're all
line.
Konami games.
He has all these optional lines, and the one line that I get every time I play the game, I've never not gotten it, is, "You're reckless. You haven't saved often." And every time I yell at the game and I say, because this game has a checkpoint system, when you die, you just go back to the beginning of the current screen. There's no reason to save the game unless you are stopping playing. If you're playing in one sitting, there's no reason for you to have to save, because when you die, you don't lose progress. I'm not an idiot. It's because of the way the game's designed.
Unless you're getting tortured by Revolver Ocelot, perhaps.
Yes, in which case it's very important to save, and the game explicitly tells you to.
Yeah, the only time it's ever important is coming up in a second. One of my favorite things that he does.
That line.
One of my favorite things that he does is he will unplug, quote unquote, the video cables to your PS1, and it'll go to the black screen with the green video in the corner, except it says Hideo because Kojima. But I remember it got us back in the day because it looked exactly like the one that our TV had.
Yeah,
it depends on what happened.
Yeah, like it depends on what kind of TV you have, right? But like, if you have a certain kind of TV, then the green text that says Hideo is literally like the exact same font, size, color, and positioning. You know what? I bet it is. I bet it's
Sony TV.
I bet it's Sony TVs. Yeah,
probably
something like that. So it's like, I'm sure that they had whatever CRT was actually in their dev studio. They literally mimicked its exact aesthetic. That way, it literally just looks like your TV got fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's so good. So,
get fucked, Eternal Darkness.
Yes. So, I
like that game. It's all right.
His fucking with you meta stuff is incredibly simple and in no way as intricate as like Undertale or Doki Doki Literature Club's metagaming, but it's absolutely the first time I ever remember anything like happening like that. So it being super heavy-handed is acceptable because it's super famous. Like most people,
there's a reason it blew everyone's brains.
Yeah, it's
also. It's an early indication of one of the series' strongest themes, which isn't a narrative theme or a like commentary on the world. It's just Hideo Kojima, and of course when I say Kojima, we know games are not one person. I don't know who's responsible, but any Kojima game seems to have like a love affair with technology, like with the technology of the game console. Every MGS game that is made, also games like Boktai, they will never not use every single feature that the game console has, even the stupid ones, purely because
even the 6-axis.
Purely because like Kojima and the team are fascinated by new technology and want to try to find creative things to do with it, even if it's just like one little scene, right? Or some contrived trick. They'll always think of some cute way to use like any technological idea that is developed in video games. So the series is in many ways about a relationship between like an artist and their tools, where the tool is the game console the game is on.
Mm-hmm. Wait, what if the reason that they're remaking Silent Hill 2 is because they're remaking Metal Gear Solid, and they can't do metagaming things for other Konami games if there are no other Konami games.
Wait, holy shit. If Metal Gear Solid Remake has a line about how you love Silent Hill 2 and it can read it because they're on the same console, I will lose. That would be so good.
That would be hilarious. Although it would be weird to have it in a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake instead of a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake. I don't know why they're remaking 3 first.
I forgot to remake. Well, probably just because it's the best one. They probably just figure if they're only going to, like, maybe it doesn't sell that well and they only get to remake 1. It's like, well, if we're only going to remake 1, we should remake the best one.
Yeah.
You don't want to be Star Wars that started remaking the movies and remade it with Episode 1 and nobody wanted to see that movie in 3D. So then it failed so bad he sold Star Wars.
I did.
I still have the popcorn bucket in my kitchen. I definitely do, but it definitely should have started with Episode 4.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways,
yeah, that would have made more sense.
Yeah. So once the fight proper starts, he dodges all of your bullets, and you can't quite hit him. You can technically win like this. It's very, very hard.
It's really hard to even get a single hit.
Yeah, I was getting a couple, and because I had remembered this fight where like he's like, now I'm going to control you and take you over or something, and that was the point to switch your controller, but you do it right away. And so I was like waiting for that. I'm like, damn, this guy's hard. But yeah, you just move your controller into port 2, and then he can't read your mind, and you can just shoot him super easily. It's
still a really hard fight.
Yeah.
It's still I forgot how hard this fight was.
Yeah, in my brain it was like, oh, you figure out to put it into port 2 and then it's sort of free. But no, it just means now you can hit him.
Yeah. In the final phase, it's either a 2-phase fight or a 3-phase fight. In the final phase, he pretty much just like disappears. Mm-hmm. And not like in the Gray Fox way, but like in the he's literally doesn't exist anywhere. And then he bleeps into existence and then like a second later, Psycho kinetically throws some shit at you, and then disappears again. And he's such like a whack-a-mole game, but he often will appear off screen, and you have so little time to recognize where he is currently on this field, point your gun at him, shoot him, and then dodge what he's throwing at you. It's really hard. You know what? I bet if I was playing the game in stereo, it would be easier. I bet the sound of where he's appearing probably is a big hint, but my television is mono.
If you are a little freak and you're playing this game like a Metroidvania, once you get the level 3 card key, you can go back to the tank hangar on the second floor of the tank hangar and get the thermal scope in which you can see him when he disappears. And
the thermal goggles are useful in basically every boss fight.
Yeah.
They're one of the most important items in the whole game, and at no point does the game make you get them.
Yeah.
I think I do have them now. I just didn't think to use them.
Yeah, you'll most likely stumble into them when you go back to open the level 6 door in the tank hangar to get the sniper rifle here in a second.
Yeah.
That's where you usually bump into them, but you can get them pretty early.
I think you can even see the landmines with the thermal goggles. Yeah, they're really important.
Yeah.
That's true of every Metal Gear game. Like MGS3, like, oh, that enemy really far away wearing camo. Is that a guy, or am I just seeing things? Oh, wait, let me put on thermal goggles. Okay, that's a guy.
So after we kill him, there's a great scene with the dying Psycho Mantis, who tells us how we can get to Metal Gear. We have to go to the communications towers and cross the walkway in between them to make it past the, quote, frozen glaciers in the way. Glaciers are really old ice. So I don't know how they built a building and then there were glaciers. But okay.
Whatever. You can't get...
I don't think English is his first language. Don't be shitty about this.
It's true. But
yeah. Also, he does tell you the backstory of why he's so fucked up. Every character in the game, after you kill them, they tell you their tragic backstory. And his is that he had a super abusive father. And he was born with crazy... He's not a product of weird experiments. He was born with crazy psychic powers. But the first person he ever dove into their mind was his dad. And when he dove into his dad's mind, he learned that his dad was an insane just sicko freak, and that made him realize that all humans are evil, which is why he's such a bastard.
Yeah. Snake specifically asks him why is he helping us, and Mantis says that he's read so many minds in his life, thousands of minds, and every single one of them has only one thing on their mind, and that's fucking, and it makes him sick. So Snake, being the first ace person that he's ever met, gives Mantis hope, and he says that Snake has no past or future, and he just lives in the moment, and he appreciates that. So Snake's asexuality is not only a plot point, it is a crucial plot point to helping him stop Metal Gear.
And to thematize it a little bit, fucking, yes, obviously that's what he's talking about is sex, because, you know, you see a pretty girl and you go, oh, wooga, and then you're not thinking with your brain anymore. But he does also mean, in a more literal sense, passing on one's genes, to bring back the actual themes of the game, right? Is that all living beings exist to pass on their genes. And you could also say to dominate, to expand, to make not just one more of you, but many more of you. You want your genes to conquer all the other genes by being the most. And Snake doesn't have that drive. He ain't got that dog in him.
Mm-hmm. Mantis says that he doesn't agree with Liquid's goals. He just joined up so that he could kill a whole lot of people. He's seen a bunch of true evil in his life, but compared to Snake, Mantis isn't so bad after all. He says that he can read Meryl's mind too, and that Snake has a large place in her heart, but he won't elaborate on that. He opens the door for us and succumbs. Meryl feels really bad for instantly, literally one room away from when she promised she wouldn't getting in the way. And Snake says to not let it happen again and to just learn from her mistakes. Meryl asks him some question about his...
Oh, I thought you were moving on. I was just going to say, and this scene just has a lot of really good, quick dialogue. Like, it's just like bam, 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 back and forth. Good dialogue. But go on.
Yeah, they got some Sorkin. They got some Sorkin-ass writing sometimes. And coming from me, that should sound like a huge insult, but I actually think it's good.
Yeah, it's Sorkin style, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Yeah. So, Meryl asks Snake some questions about his personal life, and Snake says that he's never cared about anyone else's life and says that it's time to go. So in the next area, there are some doggos, and they're kind of bullshit annoying. And for the first time in the game, the way forward is not on the grid. It is like at a 30-degree angle, which A, is pretty cool, but B, makes it you really have to hunt for where you have to crawl. And the dogs suck and are kicking your ass the whole time. So
and you don't want to kill them because they're dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you do hit them, they're like...
Did you just make a bad dog dying sound? Discord cut it out.
Yeah, I tried to make like a dog whining sound.
Yeah, Discord was like, no heartbreak for you.
I shouldn't do that again. I wouldn't want to give the trans woman the wrong idea. I'm not like other girls. I'm not a dog.
So after you make it through, the next zone is a super long hallway, and it has mines everywhere. And Meryl's like, walk where I walk, but Deep Throat already told us that we can crawl and pick up mines instead of blowing them up. So we just press X twice and crawl on the floor.
Does Meryl have special dialogue if you do that? Because I totally followed her.
Me too.
No, she didn't have any special dialogue. I wanted claymores so that I could use them for boss fights.
It's because she's like, Mantis could see into my mind, and when Mantis saw into my mind, I also sort of saw into his, so I could see where the mines are. So, are you impressed? And he's like, yeah, a little. It would be really funny if you did what you did. She was like, oh, I thought that was pretty cool what I did. I thought my thing was cool too.
I helped. It's the only time I've helped in the whole game. Also, I guess I opened a door one time.
Mm-hmm. So right as we get through the little mine section to the front of the hallway, a sniper shoots Meryl and she drops to the floor. Snake goes to...
You might think I'm sorry to interrupt, but you might think, oh, this is a PS1 game. How brutal can that be? It can be pretty fucking brutal.
Yeah.
This
scene is fucked up.
This game has a lot of blood.
It does.
And given that it's such a modern game, yeah, it makes sense. You shoot someone, they got blood, right? But on a PS1 game, I don't know, somehow in a movie it's use a squib so it just looks realistic. Yeah, the fact that it doesn't look realistic, the fact that they had to very clearly add this spraying red effect and it's so much, the game's really bloody, but also there's a lot of recurring cinematographic techniques that they use a lot. They'll often use they'll use a not exactly slow-mo, but they do use a lot of slow-mo, but they often will also employ kind of a blurriness where every time someone moves there's it leaves a blurry trail, and also a lot of quick flash flash cuts, and also the screen will flash white or flash black. It's a very over-the-top in-your-face style of filmmaking, which makes sense because, yeah, the graphics are really rudimentary, so to get across what's going on, you have to really sell it over the top using these loud cinema techniques and editing techniques.
Yeah, and it's very,
and
very
the drums
effective.
going a lot of deep booming bass drums and timpani, which is cool.
You mentioned the blur, and I want to highlight that because the PS1 could not do motion blur. They're doing some Vagrant Story style trickery shit, and it's really, really, really good. And the fact that they pulled that off at all on the PS1 is
Sam,
fantastic.
because you said you are literally going to start playing the sequel probably immediately, I will say, if you're playing Metal Gear Solid 2, make sure that you're either playing the real version or emulating the original version, because if you're playing the HD remaster version, yeah, I guess it's cool that it's all in crisp HD graphics or whatever, but MGS2 also makes very effective artistic use of motion blur, and the HD whatevers don't have it.
That's stupid. Yeah, I was probably going to just play the PS2.
Cool. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Anywho, so Snake runs to go after Meryl. Meryl's like, "This is obviously a trap, idiot. She shot me so she'd kill you. I'm a nobody. You're Snake, the Snake that's obviously here fucking everybody up. So go save yourself." And Snake is like, "No, I'm going to shoot back." So we backtrack across the map to one of the first rooms of the game to get a sniper rifle, and then we come back. There is fast travel in this game, sort of. If you use your sneaky boxes to hide in the back of the trucks, the guard will walk by and be like, "Oh, this truck needs to go to such and such," and then it'll fast travel you to the other location. And so if you go back just a couple of rooms, hop on the truck with your to the hangar box, grab the PSG-1, ride back in the truck with your to the nuclear weapons box, and then you'll be right back. So it's pretty cool. Somebody on the codec tells you need to go back to the armory in the tank hangar, so you know where to go. It's not.
So you have to think to call Otacon, because he said that he knows where everything is on the base. So you have to think to call him, and then he tells you where to find a sniper rifle. And Snake's like, "It's all the way the fuck over there. What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Meryl just literally bleeds out while you're running all the way back there.
Yeah.
Basically.
Good thing this game only does this huge backtrack across the entire game one time, and doesn't do it 2 more times for the same puzzle. Yeah, you grab the PSG-1, and then you come back and you have your boss fight with Sniper Wolf. The hardest part of this boss fight is getting into position. You climbing down and crawling and getting into position takes long enough that if you do it where Wolf can see you, she will shoot you by the time you complete it, and you can't move while your gun is out. So you kind of just have to get crouch and crawl close to the edge, but not so close to the edge, and then poke out a little bit and quickly put on your gun. And then once you can aim towards her, it's a pretty easy boss fight. You just shoot her when she pops out. But getting into position sucks.
I had a really hard time here, because the thing is, if you're already aiming at her, but then she shoots you first, it you'll still be in first person, but it gives you a huge recoil, and now you're aiming a different direction. And then you have to slowly, laboriously re-aim, or you could stand up, lay back down, and aim. But I think that actually takes longer to re-aim. It's hard. First time I got totally on. Second time, you just got to be on her ass. You just got to be on her ass and not let her get you. Also, I do love how this game actually does. Well, it's exaggerated because snipers in real life don't shoot at people from this close. They shoot each other from like a literal mile away. But they do, in an exaggerated way, include an important fact about sniper rifles, which is like the bullet travel time, because she can definitely fire her. Like you can shoot her, and then she still shoots a bullet at you before your bullet hits her, which is pretty cool. So you'll see her recoil, and then you'll get hit. It's pretty fun. Like, that's annoying. It makes the battle harder, but I like that they have it.
Also, last time we recorded, Metagrace, you said you weren't sure if the guards in the snowfield area, helipad area, could see your breath when you're hiding behind something. And I'm thinking they can, because in this fight, very specifically, there's one of Wolf's hiding spots where you can see her breath from where she's hiding, and that tips you off to where she is. So I'm thinking if they thought to include it for that, surely they have it the other way too.
Yeah.
Also, one thing I will say is this game, my girlfriend really liked this part. This game features another little bit of interesting, like, Kojima or someone else on the team read about this thing on the internet and wanted to put it in the game to give it some realism. You don't just need a sniper rifle in this game, you also need diazepam. Also called Valium, which is an actual drug that exists actually in the real world. It's a muscle relaxer. It's a depressant. I think many people, usually people have like anxiety or like muscle seizures. It also, I think, is a drug that is commonly abused for drug abuse reasons. I'm not sure. I mean, most drugs have some people who like to get fucked up on them. But in addition, though, it is actually used by people who fire guns in real life to like steady their hands and stuff. So in this game, if you don't use diazepam when you're in first person mode all zoomed in, your aim will like jerk around a whole bunch. So you have to be constantly
function without it.
Yeah, so you have to pop the pills so that you can actually aim in a straight line and fire. It's neat. And again, cool that they included this real actual thing and just call it like sniper drugs or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't it renamed in later games to something fake?
I don't remember.
So Bernard, you say that you cannot function without it. I had to in the snowfield fight because I had run out of diazepam.
Gosh.
And so
You're so bad at this game.
I am. I just never. I used it here in this fight, and then I had like 2 left for the other one, and so I had run out, and I hadn't found any again, and I didn't want to leave and go do it. And I think it actually makes me good at the game to be able to still shoot her while I'm going fucking crazy. I would do things like you do in real life when you're kind of shaky, is you like lean into it a little bit to be like, okay, I know I'm going to aim to like be moving to aim and stop where it is, because I know that the shaking will start after that. So I have like a split second of like aiming on purpose after I'm done aiming to go and do it. And it was very hard, but I'm playing on super easy, so it made it an adequate challenge. So I had fun. But yeah, after you kill her, you make your way down that hallway, and you are ambushed by Sniper Wolf and some soldiers who hold up Snake and take him to custody. Wolf informs Snake that she's spent a bonus action to cast Hunter's Mark and will now get an extra 1d6 damage when she hits him with a weapon attack, and she has advantage on any perception or survival checks to track him. They take Snake into custody and strap him to a big old torture chair. We hear Ocelot and Liquid and Wolf discussing him, and Liquid refers to Snake as the man who stole his birthright, and after 30 long years and the sacrifice of all of their brothers, they finally meet. Liquid wants a sample of Snake's DNA to be able to fix the Genome Soldier's mutations, but after that, they'll need Big Boss's DNA. the negotiations with the world leaders have completely stalled, and Wolf doesn't think that they'll ever give in, so that they can save face and not leak their involvement with creating more nukes. They then realize that Snake has been awake this whole time, so Liquid introduces himself properly. He says that he and Snake are the last surviving, quote, sons of Big Boss. Liquid then gets a phone call, and the Americans aren't going to give in to their demands, which is weird because Americans are usually easy. Liquid leaves to go take care of the nuclear launch preparations, and he tells Ocelot not to kill him like he did with the chief. Ocelot asks about the ninja, and we learn that the ninja is still at large. Liquid also mentions that they'll have to deal with the ninja and figure out what happened to Baker and Decoy Octopus, which is a super cool blink and you miss it explanation of what happened earlier. It's such a blink and you'll miss it that Snake misses it, and they talk about it later as a I wonder what could happen, even though they say it here, which is pretty cool. So Decoy Octopus, as we know from the briefing, is a master of disguise. And Ocelot was interrogating the DARPA chief, but accidentally killed him before finding out the information. So Decoy Octopus dressed up as the DARPA chief and had, as we found out later, drained his blood to get the tracker and nanobots to confound Snake's sensors to look like the DARPA chief to try and get Snake to talk, which is why right before he died, he started asking a bunch of leading questions, and then he died mysteriously, which is also what happened to Baker, but Baker wasn't Decoy Octopus and is...
Decoy Octopus.
Yes.
Is what you said, and I found it funny.
Is it not Decoy Octopus?
No, but you said Decoy Octopus.
Oh, Octopus.
Oh.
But so it's something unexplained that killed both of them, and they don't know why, which is super interesting. I don't know when our characters figure it out, but they definitely don't in the next scene where they talk about how weird it is. But
so you managed to figure that out with your brain, or did you read about it somewhere?
I knew that Decoy Octopus was the DARPA chief before we started playing. I think I heard it on the Old Games Plus episodes about it. But
it's just neat because I find that to be a very difficult plot to really figure out, even though they definitely telegraph it.
Yeah,
pretty obvious. Anyway,
all the
my
information
girlfriend
is there. He gave you all the clues.
Yeah, my girlfriend, who is always much smarter than me, probably figured out the entire plot of Glass Onion, like, halfway through.
Damn.
Like, especially some of the parts that are, like, really sneaky tricks. Probably was like, wait, but how come this person is blah, 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 blah? I was like, baby, why do we don't even need to watch much of the movie at this point. Anyway, I was very impressed, so I was wondering if you figured it out, too.
Yeah, Summer is the same way. So when Westworld Season 1 came out, everyone was obsessed with it because so many of the twists are like very cleverly foreshadowed and not very easy to predict. And so when it happens, you're like, oh my God, that makes sense because of blah, 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 blah. But not, oh, look at blah, 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 blah. Therefore, the twist is about to happen. So when the super big twist there in like the second to last episode happens or whatever, I like knowingly look over at Summer like, is your mind blown? She goes, oh, I figured that from like episode 1. I'm like, God damn it. How the fuck did you know this? So...
also, I'll say, I was wrong about diazepam being taken from real life. I mean, it is a real drug, but the idea that snipers use it was made up for this game. It is used in the military, but not for that exact reason. I'm sure I've read all this at some point because I used to be such a huge fan that I've done lots of research about every fucking thing about these games, but at some point my wires must have gotten crossed, and this is not one of the military real life details in this game that is actually from real life. It's one of the ones that is made up.
Nice. But it uses currently existing technology to study
exactly.
its hand.
Oh, and also in the later games it's called pentazemin, which is a made up word.
Yes.
That's a good made up name for a medicine. That definitely sounds like the name of a medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So Liquid and Wolf leave the torture chamber, so Ocelot is free to torture Snake. He says
Wolf
that if
does
Snake
drop that Meryl is still alive before she leaves.
And so if Snake gives in to into the torture and submits, the torture will stop, but Ocelot will kill Meryl. And if he doesn't, he'll keep Meryl alive. So Ocelot shocks the shit out of Snake to get him to talk, and we have to mash O really, really fast to survive. And it's not
really, really fast.
It's not nearly as hard as I remember, though. And I don't know if it's easier on easy or
it is. Yes,
what.
It is. It's harder on higher skill levels. So fun fact: you have to do like 3 or 4 rounds of it, and then he says, "Okay, you're done." And then some plot happens. You might have to do it again, or even again. And here's the thing: as Mei Ling suggests, you should save before this happens, because in his line of dialogue where he's explaining the shocker, he goes, "There are no continues, my friend." Because for the only time in the game, if you die here, there's no continue. You have to load your game. Here's the thing. In between rounds of getting shocked, when you're chilling in the prison, you can totally call Mei Ling and save at any time, and my dumb ass continuously kept forgetting to do that. And I had to go through not just the fact that you have to go through multiple rounds, period, just because that's how the game works. I probably had to do this like 7 times, because sometimes I would lose, or sometimes I would succeed and then forget to save, and then do it again, and then lose, and then have to reload my game, and then do it again. And eventually, even though it is not, it's a great balance of hard but not insanely hard, where like after my 3rd or 4th time, I was unable to do it because my hand was way too tired, and my girlfriend had to start taking, like, we had to start sharing the controller, and we almost gave up. I was like, fuck it. I like the alternate ending where Meryl dies anyway. Let's just fucking do it. But then I figured it out. So we did in fact get it. Man, I'm so stupid.
But yeah, it's I want to underline the fact that Ocelot straight up tells you if you you're gonna have a game over if you lose this mini game, and it's great. Yeah, and it's a really interesting mechanical thing, and also does that weird thing where characters break the 4th wall in a way that only this game can do without feeling really weird.
He also
don't even think about using auto fire.
Okay, does the game actually have a way of detecting that? Like if you do it really fast, and it's I don't think it's because you're doing it too fast. I think it's literally like it can tell what kind of controller you have plugged in, because that's the feature that the game. So basically, yeah, it has nothing to do with how fast you hit the button. It's like, do you have an auto fire controller, or do you have that activated? The game console must just be able to read that from the controller port. Some controllers, in fact, maybe even mini controllers that have auto fire, he does call you out on it. I don't know what, but like I know that you can't. However, there are some that that the game doesn't detect. So it is definitely possible to use auto fire here if you have certain controllers. So you want to know what I did?
What?
Because I tried to get through this by the power of my own thumbs, and I couldn't. I just put the emulator into slow-mo.
Oh my god, that's so really funny. I couldn't do that because I'm playing it on the PS3, but yeah, that's really clever.
That's amazing.
I mean, I could have also figured out how to do auto fire, but he would have known.
All right. But so I googled it, and yeah, they look for known turbo controllers that were released prior to 1998. So if you had a new turbo controller, it wasn't programmed in, and you could use it.
Nice. I will also say, it's more of a memo, but whatever, I'm already saying it. One thing I like about this game, every boss, with the exception, I guess, of Deco Octopus, or most bosses in this game, you fight twice, and I always thought of Ocelot as being one of the exceptions. But actually, I'm going to say it. This counts as a second Ocelot fight.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's cute.
Definitely a second Battle of the Wills. So.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, you have to survive this button mashing mini game several times, with Ocelot giving Snake periodic breaks back in one of the holding cells. During one of these breaks, Ocelot will say that Liquid is a badass because he was able to shoot down the two F-16 planes using only his helicopter, and that the Terrible Babies project was a success. He says it in French.
Les enfants terribles. But yeah, when you say
terribles, the terrible babies.
Yeah, but when you just say terrible babies, this sounds a lot less cool.
Well, enfant means like it can mean children.
Yeah.
Also, terrible children sounds less stupid in English, but
it is a reference to something. To be clear,
it's actually not. I googled it. Well, it's a reference because it's the name of a novel, but the novel has nothing to do with the thing.
Yeah, but it is a very famous novel, so I'm guessing it is intentionally a reference to that novel. Yeah, it's a famous enough novel. Oh wait, here we go. It was a film.
Yeah, it was a novel. Then the novelist wrote the movie about it, and then a different novelist adapted that movie into a new novel, and then that same novelist went on to make a movie about his secondary thing. So there's four movies roughly related about.
And to be clear, the reason why it's important that it's a film is that I am making fun of Hideo Kojima here, saying it's much more likely that he has watched a movie than watched a classic work of French literature, or read a French novel from the 1930s.
So he definitely would have watched a French movie from the 1950s.
Exactly.
But I do want to say, if you're enjoying your time going through Metal Gear Solid and you want to see the film or read the book, don't. It's some fucked up Flowers in the Attic type shit. Don't know why he decided to reference it here, because it definitely has nothing to do with.
He probably just thought, man, there sure are some
phrase.
special babies in this plot. Maybe I should name them after that one movie I saw one time about the bad babies. I bet that's literally the entire thought process.
Probably so.
As me and Bernard have always talked, why would you say something in a normal way when you can say it in a way that is referencing something?
Exactly.
He sends us to a holding cell, and we share our cell with the DARPA chief, the real one, as it turns out. And he's rotting and gross, and even though he supposedly only died a couple hours ago. The colonel calls Snake, and Snake says to cut the bullshit and just tell him what he knows about Metal Gear Rex. The colonel apologizes for not telling Snake, but even as recently as yesterday, the president doesn't know about Metal Gear Rex, so it's a very need-to-know basis. Tomorrow, the president and his Russian counterpart are supposed to sign the START 3 Accord, even though they haven't ratified START 2 or dealt with the issue of TMDs. Elaborate on that. No. So the colonel begs Snake to stop the terrorists, and Snake says, well, then tell me about the warhead. The colonel says he doesn't know anything else, and Snake says, that's stupid. Why don't we just give the bad guy's big boss his remains? And the colonel is like, well, actually, and Naomi is like, well, the president has been vocal in his opposition to eugenics, so the Genome's Army's existence can't get out. And Snake is like, but there's also a secret third thing, isn't there, Campbell? And Campbell won't say anything.
And I'm like, there's some background lore going on that apparently the president had to be vocal about that.
Yeah.
That sort of implies a lot. Is that all they talk about at this point?
There's a little bit more. So they talk about the DARPA chief being recently decomposed and his blood being drained, and they're like, I wonder why that could be. And then Snake asks Naomi about herself to distract him from his torture pain, and he asks about her family, but she says that her family is not a happy topic for her. Snake says that the only family he has is the man who claimed to be his father. Big Boss.
Oh
Naomi's
yeah,
like,
that's an important thing.
What? Another dad?
and Naomi's like, but you killed him. And Snake's like, yup. Some people just need killing. But after killing Big Boss, Snake retired to Alaska and raised sled dogs. And Naomi was like, that sounds super lonely. Did you have any friends? And Snake says, just the Colonel and Gray Fox. And Naomi was like, didn't you and Gray Fox try to kill each other? Like, A, at the end of the last game, and B, 2 bosses ago? And Snake is like, yep.
And he does kind of say it like that. He's just like,
definitely does. It's
a really good line read.
He says that war is no reason to end a friendship, and then they sum up Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2's plot through the lens of him and Gray Fox's friendship. Naomi is like, well, how does that explain the ninja's behavior? And Snake's like, he says that it's probably their genes that make them violent. And Snake is like, you sure talk about genes a lot. And she goes, I'm a geneticist. That's what I do. She uses a lot more words, though. The Colonel begs Snake to break out of there, go destroy Metal Gear, and most importantly, to save Meryl. But how do we break out of this locked room? There are a few ways. The guard will, once a torture session, leave to go poop. And if you hide under the bed while he's gone, when he comes back to check on you, he'll think that you vanished. So he'll come in and you can kill him and escape. So you can. That's the one torture version.
It's very difficult to do. You're gonna want to wait till he's really all the way the hell in that room, because the second he sees you, he's gonna run out the door and lock it. And I had a really hard time like punching him real fast and then running out. I fucked it up and he locked the door. If he does that, you gotta wait till the next round of torture. Also, if you go under the bed while he's watching, he's like, cut it out, will ya? Or like, what the hell are you doing down there?
And you say you kill him, but no, you knock him out, because this is the same guy who Meryl knocked out before. And like we said, he is an important character later on.
He's the most important character in the entire no, that's an exaggeration, but yes.
So if you fail the 1 torture version, you can get the 2 torture version, where if on your first day you call Otacon to help you, he'll come to break you out, except he sucks. So instead he brings you tuna and ketchup, which is just the absolute worst flavor combination I can fucking think of. It like literally makes me sick to think that Otacon thought that tuna and ketchup would go good together.
Didn't. No, really
gross.
He if you break out of the cell you can use the ketchup and put it on yourself when the guard leaves, and he'll be like, oh my gosh, he's bleeding, he's dead, and you come in and you knock him out. If you call Otacon after that, he says, I see you figured out what I had in mind.
Yeah. I thought that was cute. Like,
he had a plan and didn't tell you.
Yeah, I thought he really... Well, maybe there's a camera in there, right? I thought he really was just being cute and was like, I can't help you, but I can at least bring you some food. And I thought Otacon's a very sweet boy, and I love him in this game. But then Snake, being smart, realizes I could use this ketchup to escape instead. But yeah, it turns out Otacon did in fact want you to use the ketchup to escape. Although it's very difficult to use. He doesn't suck that bad then. You have to do a weird... The games it's really hard to actually use that ketchup. You can also accidentally just eat it, which is really funny.
So yeah, again, you play dead, the guard comes in to check on you, and then wham bam, and you can get out of there. Or if you don't call Otacon and you survive through 3 tortures, the ninja comes to break you out. All of the talk about ninja in the last thing was to like remind you that he exists and is still alive, because he comes to break you out as it's like foreshadowing that they don't need to use, which I think is pretty cool. And then the other way to break out is to submit to the torture and sacrifice Meryl and get the bad ending. I went the Otacon route. Did either of you do that?
One important thing about this is that the fact there's multiple endings is actually a bit of a spoiler. I don't mind that we're sharing it, but if you so Otacon Ocelot says if you give in, he'll kill Meryl. And if you don't give in, well, he doesn't even say he won't. He's just like, I think he's like, maybe you'll live. Maybe she'll live if you resist my torture. And what's neat is she's out of the game for a long fucking time. So I'm pretty sure the rest of today's episode, you don't know if she's dead or not. You have literally no clue. Ocelot suggested he wouldn't kill her, but you literally have no idea. What happens if you submit? Does he make clear that he killed her, or is it the same level of ambiguity?
I don't know. I do know that even in the Meryl Lives ending, everyone talks about her as if she died. Here in a second, because you have no idea that she isn't. Yeah, they'll say things like, I couldn't protect her and stuff like that. So I really like how you just think she's dead for half the game. Mm-hmm.
It's like, Ocelot could have just been lying.
Yeah. Did either of you do the bed breakout, or did you use the catch up?
I tried to do the bed breakout because I remembered it, but I did it wrong, and Johnny saw me. So I used the catch-up.
I ended up doing the bed breakout. I did do it wrong, but if you recall, I'm an idiot who forgot to save. So I had another chance to do the bed breakout after doing 2 more rounds of torture.
Cool. So once you break out, you go and grab your shit from the torture room, and there's a real cool snake hides behind a pillar and comes out changed sort of thing.
It's very cute.
Very movies of you, Hideo Kojima.
Also, the all of your stuff box is a special little red color, and you're like, ooh, what's that special glowing item box that's bigger than normal and is like red? It's like, oh, it's all of your equipment.
Mm-hmm. And I love it. It has existed in every single torture scene. Ocelot is trying to be menacing and talking about, when I was back in the Russian infantry and all the other stuff that he's talking about. There's just a big floating game abstraction right behind his head, and it's fantastic.
I mean, half of Ocelot's dialogue in that scene is a game abstraction, so
it's true.
Yeah.
So, once you get all of your shit and you go to explore a little bit, you'll get a call from Deep Throat, who warns you that there's a bomb in your stuff, so you got to get rid of it. He called me while I was crawling.
That's from Metal Gear 2. Although Metal Gear 2, it's actually, I'll share this in the month because it's elaborate.
Deep Throat called me when I was in the middle of, because I was crawling all the way back to the beginning of the game to use fast travel for to get to the next part, because the cell you're in is the same cell area as when you broke into prison at the beginning. You're in the same spot, so I was right there by the fast travel spot. So I was crawling through the vents to get back there. And Deep Throat was like, "Hey, you have 30 seconds to not get a game over," and I'm like, well, shit, and had to turn around in the vents and make it out, and it was. Anywho, so we then make our way to the communications tower, which has a shitload of stairs, just like the damn Shinra building. When we get to the walkway door halfway through, we learn that it's been frozen over on the outside, so we have to go all the way to the roof walkway. But on the roof, Liquid has his Hindy helicopter, and he tries to explode us. And he explodes the walkway, so we can't run across the way we wanted to. So instead, we have to rappel down the side of the building in a little bespoke rappel minigame. And
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's not terribly hard, but it's not easy.
It took me 2 or... So we think it took me like 3 tries.
Damn, I guess I'm better at Metal Gear than you.
It's fun. I like it.
Yeah, it only took me one try, but again, I'm on easy, so I take hits like a champ. So we land on the lower walkway and we make our way to the other building. There's technically harder genome soldiers right here, so much so that the walkthrough counts them as a boss, but I can see them on my radar from across the other side, and I have a sniper rifle, so I win. I don't think of it as a boss fight,
Man,
but it's listed as a boss.
I'm just so deeply... I think it's because it's not even forced kills. Man, I'm so deeply uncreative, you guys. I literally never think to use the sniper except for explicitly part of the game says you have to use the sniper. Basically,
I
when you
use the sniper
fight Sniper
point.
Wolf. I didn't notice they were there, and by the time they started shooting at me, I thought, well, I guess I'll just use stun grenades. So I did a few stun grenades, and then I ran past them. Also, yeah, when you're running up the windy staircase, just constantly dropping stun grenades is the way to go. It makes it trivial.
Now, see, I forgot about stun grenades being a thing, so I was having a really hard time. And what I was doing is I would like run up a flight of stairs, set a claymore behind me, keep running, set a claymore behind me.
Yeah, no, that's a major way to do it. I will say, even though I do feel creative, I think the reason why I was able to think about that is because more than I am uncreative, I am also very committed to a low kill run.
Mm-hmm. I don't care.
The thing is, later Metal Gear games are way more designed around being played non-lethally and are way more geared towards it and way more rewarding. So I'm so invested in Metal Gears about not killing anybody or having any stealth things that I want to play this game that way too, even though it's so much less built for it. So that's why I was able to be smart enough to use stun grenades here.
Yeah, so we make our way to the other building, but the stairs heading down to the ground are blocked and the elevator isn't working. But then Otacon shows up and he asks the most important question of the game: can love bloom on the battlefield? And Snake says, "Yep."
I think his line slightly before was much better. He says, "Snake, I came up here explicitly because I have something I've been meaning to ask you." And he's like, "What is it?" And he gets real close and he goes, "Snake, have you ever loved someone?" And to me, and I think most people playing this game, it definitely sounds like Otacon's in love with Snake.
It definitely does.
Which he is.
Yes.
And it's very funny.
So Snake asks Otacon to fix the elevator panel because I've got to go and swat a noisy fly. And so we climb up instead of going down, and we blow up the Hind D with a rocket launcher.
Also, importantly, Snake was like, "Oh, I couldn't get down the stairs. I'll use the elevator," and it didn't work. And then when Otacon shows up, Snake is like, "How'd you get here?" And Otacon's like, "I took the elevator." And then he tries the elevator again. It's still not working. So that's why he's getting it.
And this is
fixed.
every time he tries the elevator.
Yes, and it's not.
And you
working.
might be wondering, I wonder if it's stupid.
Yes,
Dear
it's something
listener,
stupid.
It's stupid. The part about the elevator that we'll be hearing about in about 3 seconds had my girlfriend hollering because it's so fucking stupid and funny.
It's so good. Yeah, so we have a boss fight with Hind D, and you have a rocket launcher, and you train your rocket launcher on the helicopter, and you blow it up. I remember this being like impossibly hard, and even taking into account the fact that I'm on easy, it doesn't seem like it's actually that hard. So I think Bolivar just sucks at video games. And while watching my older brother play, he just couldn't do this part because
it's kind of hard. I was I think one hit away from dying. And I had a couple of rations. Phase 2 is quite a bit tougher. And it's not. It's a good balance between hard and not that hard. I mean, like I said, I almost got owned. Right, I had to say okay, Matagrace, buckle up. You got to hit him 5 more times, and he has to hit you 1 time. You need to really start fucking focusing. I had to do that to my own self in order to beat it. Right.
It's hard, but it's not the hardest part of this week. It's not as hard as Sniper Wolf or Psycho Mantis.
No, or repelling,
or the torture.
Remember how this is technically a stealth game?
Yeah.
How long has it been since we did a stealth? Tell you, last week.
No, we're finding Meryl. You have to stealth from the 2 that aren't Meryl so that you can alert the real Meryl.
Let me re-say that. How many times has it been since we stealthed in a room that we hadn't already been to?
So yeah, after you blow up the Hind D, you blow up the final boss of the game, but the game credits don't roll, so I think that he'll get better.
I adore how they legitimately sell. Like, they don't tell you he survived here.
Mm-hmm.
We know he didn't because we've seen movies before, but like,
Yes.
we defeated him. He's dead. He definitely blew up.
Snake says it'll save me on the cremation. Like,
Yeah.
Which is a very badass line. It's a great
so
line.
good.
Speaking of ways this, we were talking earlier about how this game is very, very much just movies. I was Googling, I was going to Google Metal Gear Solid Escape from Holding Cell or something like that. And the autocomplete was, when I put in Metal Gear Solid Escape, the autocomplete was Metal Gear Solid Escape from New York.
Yep.
Because this game is just that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, go on.
So, Otacon calls to tell us that he fixed the elevator by not actually doing anything and taking the credit for it working for himself. And, oh, by the way, he lost 4 invisibility cloaks. Oh, and also the elevator says weight exceeded, which is weird because it only should say that if there were, 5 people on board, and clearly there's only 1 person on board. Look out, Snake. The guys who stole my stealth prototypes are in there with you.
It takes them so long to figure this out. It's stupendously funny. They're like, wait, what's the weight limit? It's 600 and something pounds. Well, I'm only 135 pounds. Literally, like, does math on fingers. I feel like there would need to be at least 5 guys in there. And this is... They could have literally dropped that the active camo suits had disappeared from the lab. Like, they could have at least put it, 5 minutes earlier. But instead, they put it in the exact same scene. It's so stupid.
However, when you're in the codec call, Otacon gets a special portrait where he's close up and yelling because he's freaking out that they're in there with him, and it's great. I love it.
So yeah, Metal Gear Solid officially earns its keep in the RPG book club because we have an elevator fight, and that's a JRPG thing,
just like in Metal Gear 2.
This one actually, it's super stupid, but it at least makes sense of how there are people on this elevator with us, and not in any of the ways that it happens in JRPGs.
Yeah.
We kill the invisible dudes and make our way out to the snowfield, where we get floored by another shot. But there aren't any more stealth camos missing, so this one must be Wolf shooting at us. Otacon begs us not to kill her, but we do it anyways. This is basically the same fight as before, but she's technically level with you, so if you run out of sniper bullets and you don't want to try and sneak your way into one of the sheds around the thing and get more, you can shoot her with Nikitas, which is cool.
Yeah, you can hide around a corner and shoot her in the face with Nikita missiles. I always forget you can do that and just have a straight sniper fight. This is the first time I've ever actually done it. It rules. It makes the battle completely trivial, but it also means you get to explore the environment from the first-person point of view, which is something I hadn't thought of until this playthrough.
Mm-hmm. So as she lays dying, we get another great scene with a dying villain, and she begs Snake to kill her since she's lung shot and she doesn't want to suffer and bleed out. She wants to go out screaming.
She's lung shot from those missiles I blew her up with.
Otacon shows up to stop us and is like, "No, Wolf, I loved you." And she's like, "Who are you?" And I love Otacon.
I don't think that's actually true. She says when he brings her gun, there's a shot of her holding her gun and Snake and Otacon all arranged as a tableau, and she said, "Everyone's here," which I think is her acknowledging that she cares for Otacon and considers him important in her life.
Although I do find it very funny, the exact sequence of events is Otacon says, "Why? I loved you." And then Wolf starts reaching out towards him, and Snake says, "What is it?" And Wolf says, "My gun."
Yeah.
That's more important.
That is true. But she definitely doesn't say, Otacon, I love you too, or even his name. But I think she subtly acknowledges that she has some degree of warmth in her heart for him.
Yeah. So we give her her gun, and she's like, all right, I'm complete, so I want to go out holding my gun. So we oblige. We fades to white, and we shoot her with a gun. And then I wanted to end right here and say somewhere a dog barks, because literally dogs do bark, and it's kind of awesome. And there's the trope in literature to say somewhere a dog barks, but these two chuckle fucks like the next scene. So what is Otacon?
The same scene.
It is after a fade to white. In screenwriting, it would be a new scene.
It's the same scene.
In our defense, this game does a lot of fades to black or white because it has to load in the middle of cutscenes. So there.
Yeah, there was definitely one earlier in the game that had like a lengthy 5-second fade to black in the middle of a sentence because they had to load a full motion video. But so we shoot Wolf, take her out of her misery, and then what happens between Snake and Otacon? I don't have notes for it.
Not much. They just talk about what they have to do next. This is the end of Act 2 of the game. They talk about how they now need to go into the hangar and destroy the underground base and destroy Metal Gear. But most of this game has very simplistic. One might say, if it was a movie, you'd say it has bad cinematography and filmmaking, but given that it's like the first game to ever fucking do this, even today it feels like it's really good. It's just simple in a nice, clunky kind of way. But this scene's got some really great cinematography, a lot of really good tableaus. Since you're outside, the sky is literally just pitch black. Not even like pretty stars, just like just black. Like there's nothing. It's a complete blank screen anytime the camera goes above a certain point. So with the white snow and the black screen and the snow particle effects blowing, there's a lot of great shots with really good composition. But then Otacon and Snake exchange some emotions, right? And then Snake turns to walk away, and he tells Otacon, stay out of trouble, please. Oh, he even tells Otacon, he's like, Otacon, you can literally leave right now. Like, you don't even need to be here. Like, you can be invisible. You could walk out of Shadow Moses Island.
Get a head start. A head start on your new life.
Exactly. But Otacon says, like, no. Like, I know I can't fight, but I need to see this through to the end. And then Snake starts to walk away dramatically, again, into a completely black screen. And it's like an over-the-shoulder shot with Otacon in the foreground and Snake walking away in the background. Otacon turns around and says, Snake, and he says, what was she fighting for? Then he says, what am I fighting for? And then he says, what are you fighting for? And then there's a shot of a close-up of Snake turning to look at him with literally nothing but Snake and blackness. And then Snake says something that my GF had a very insightful thought, which is, he says, what are you fighting for? And Snake says, after this is over, I'll tell you. And the insight here is that sounds like just a dramatic line, like, I'll tell you later. But I think that there's a few layers here. One, Snake doesn't know what he's fighting for. He's not saying, I'll tell you later in a dramatic way. He's saying, I'll tell you later as a way to avoid saying, I don't know either. But what's also cool is he doesn't know what he's fighting for on two levels. One, he doesn't know what he's fighting for on a personal, philosophical level. But also, he literally, on a basic plot level, doesn't know what he's fighting for. Because at this point, so many people have been lying to him that he doesn't know what his mission's actually about, or what his goal actually is, or what he's supposed to be, what is the heroic thing to do here. So I find it really cool that at this point, both characters are very, very lost. And they share a moment. And also Sniper Wolf's backstory, while also not important to the plot at all, is by far my favorite of all of them.
Yeah.
She grew up on a battlefield because she's Kurdish, and she said that she became a sniper because when you're a sniper, you get to see all the chaos and brutality and bloodshed of humanity from afar instead of having to be in it, which is cool.
Also, I want to say Snake says, if we make it through this, I'll tell you. And then Otacon calls back to him, okay, I'll be searching too. So Otacon seems to understand that Snake does not know what he's fighting for.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. But yeah, it's just
It's so great.
Sniper Wolf's death, even though it functionally follows the same pattern as every other boss's death in this game, it's easily the best one. It really hits. She's a great character, and you know, like the fact that she was like taken in as this like rescued from she also has stuff about how like all the governments of the world, like no one cares about the plight of like the Kurdish people, which is 100% true. And then she was taken in by Liquid Snake, who she calls Saladin, which is definitely.
I thought she said she was taken in by Big Boss.
I'm sorry.
She called Saladin.
Yeah, I just said the wrong word.
Okay.
Yeah, Big Boss. So that's why she loves and respects Big Boss, right? But she also says that she regrets her actions, that she joined Liquid's rebellion in order to get revenge on all the people who either hurt or didn't care about her and her people. But she actually says at the end that she thinks that by becoming a mercenary, she's now no more than just a dog and is not a noble wolf. But Snake encourages her, and in a moment of wonderful sensitivity is like, no, you are a noble wolf. Which is cool. Also, Saladin is definitely a reference to some, I think, and I could totally be wrong here, but it's like, it's some, legendary or historical, like a Middle Eastern person, right? I don't remember if it's a legend or an actual person or a mixture of both, but yeah.
Dope.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to memorable moments. Let's do the transition because I want to expand on this, but there is.
Oh yeah, at this point you do go down a hallway to go into the final level, and you get insert disc 2. So we're at the disc change.
Yeah.
I didn't actually go down the hallway. I saved in the snowfield.
In case you don't worry, I will say it's not a point of return. They did the thing most games do, where the entire game's map is on disc 2, but of course all the dialogue isn't. So I will say this is your last chance to do lots of codec calls, I bet. Or lots of codec calls, and then in the disc 2 there's different codec calls.
Yes.
Yeah, so memorable moments.
So I want to expand on what Maddie Grace was talking about with Sniper Wolf's backstory. Unfortunately, I don't know much about the Kurdish people and all the genocides that they've endured. Unfortunately, humanity has done enough fucked up things, I can't keep track of them all. But it just... Imagine you're in... What is this, 1998? And you play a video game and a character's like, hey, I'm from this real oppressed ethnic group. And I have feelings about real things that happened to us. That's not the kind of thing that's in video games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
when you're
now.
like 14 years old playing, or 13, like, I don't think I knew what a fucking Kurd was. Like, I definitely remember this was like one of the first things to spark me, like, wanting to know about, like, the world, you know what I mean? Like, if you said that if someone said Kurdistan, I'd be like, oh, is that one of those countries over there? No, Kurdistan's not a country. It's what we call a region that is part of a lot of countries.
So, yeah, I don't have anything interesting to say about that. I just find it really interesting that this game, I guess, goes there. I don't know how sensitively it handles it. I don't know. It doesn't do a whole lot with it, but just it acknowledges that reality exists in a way that a lot of games don't.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And when I was a kid, I remember reading a lot. It's really embarrassing to be like, yeah, I didn't know okay, I don't want to say I didn't know anything, but it's embarrassing to be like, I didn't know about a lot of the fucking shit that America and the CIA did in Central America until I played goddamn Peace Walker, because that is an embarrassment to our American educational system and also my own degree of curiosity as a child. But it's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know a lot about that stuff until I played fucking Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. You know what I mean? Like, that's lame, but it's true.
In a heel turn to something completely different, this game continues to have a lot of things that if I didn't know any better, and I actually factually do know better, I would think that this game was a immersive sim that had a bunch of systems in it, but it actually has a bunch of hard-coded interactions, and they're not actual system things. So, yeah, it just is. It's really hard to make a Breath of the Wild, but in a way, it's easier to make a Breath of the Wild to make all of the rules make sense than it is to program in what every single weapon can do with everything. So this one being, hey, programmed in what every single weapon can do with everything is stupid and cool. So one of the bespoke things you can do this time has to do with the dogs that I mentioned. So you can fight them if you want, but there's an infinite number of them, and the more that you fight them, they have the highest HP in anything that you fought. It takes like 20 bullets. It makes you have to deal with a lot of sad dog noises if you try to fight them, and they come back more aggressive because you've killed one of their own. So it's really hard. Don't fight the dogs. Or if you find the puppy and get the puppy to follow you to Meryl, it falls in love with Meryl. So if you punch Meryl, the dog will bite Snake in the nards, which is hilarious and awesome. Yeah. Or if you quickly get inside of a box, he will try to bite you in the nards, will nip at you a couple times, can't do it, so then he'll pee on the box. And
oh my God, I didn't know that one.
If you use the box that has dog pee on it, the dogs think that you're a dog, and you can just walk through that.
Oh my God!
For the rest of the game.
That's what it is. I knew there was a way to be dog-proofed at this point in the game. So later, there's a much easier way to get dog-proofed. Once you get the
handkerchief.
Once you get the handkerchief, because the handkerchief smells like Meryl. Sorry, it smells like wolf. Yeah, so that part's easy. Yeah. I knew that. So at this point in the future, if you ever have to backtrack, you just use Wolf's hanky, and they like you now. But I tried. I thought it had something to do with like Meryl's blood. Like you could get Meryl's blood on you, like Meryl. But it's getting pissed on. Of course. Why didn't I think of that?
It's a Hideo Kojima game. You should have thought piss was involved.
Yeah, there's
also, speaking of bespoke interactions, I saved before I did this, but because I wanted to see if there was a bespoke interaction here. If after the I guess you could do it before too, but after the Psycho Mantis fight, Meryl is just standing there, and you can press the button to grab or punch her. And if you do that, she has a fantastic bespoke animation where she slaps Snake, and Snake just like flies back and falls on his ass.
That rules.
That's amazing.
Because he shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Here's one of my mem moms. When Snake, if you look at the camera angles used, when you have your dramatic final scene with Sniper Wolf, she's like really close to the northern part of the screen, and basically really close to the big door that you go through to continue the game. Actually, it's a little bit to the left, but whatever. And it's even in the background of some shots. At the end of that scene, Snake dramatically walks far off into the distance where everything is a black screen. Not only is it the fact that if he was walking in the correct direction, there'd be a wall there, but also just the way that the characters are blocked based on the previous shots. He's definitely just walking in the direction of where you just came from. He's not walking farther in... He's just there's no reason he would be walking in that direction except that it looks dramatic that way. It's really fucking stupid, and it made me laugh while I was trying to enjoy the scene. The otherwise very, very, very good scene.
Wolf gave him the level 7 card, and he knew that there's a door to get some rations back there. He was just going to stock back up.
Yeah, he knows this is a Metroidvania.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if what they wanted to do was like he walks through the door, looks back. I turned away from the microphone to say that because I was looking back. He looks back at Otacon and says his dramatic line, and then the door closes. But for some reason, they couldn't do that because it's just the PlayStation 1.
Mm-hmm.
Because that would make a lot more sense.
Yeah. But it rules anyways.
It does. I love it.
Speaking of black screens, my other mem mom, and I'll probably leave it at this. I mean, I have so many, but I'll probably leave it here. Oh, and I gotta say ones that I forgot to say last week. Is just like Xenogears, this game makes such great use of its like little 3D environments that are all very small because the game doesn't, PSX doesn't have a shit ton of like, doesn't have modern console RAM, so all the environments actually have to be pretty small little toy box dioramas. But just like Xenogears does in some key moments, this week we had some great use of black. I love when you're on top of the communications towers, just like the Yggdrasil in Xenogears. Like you're at the top of a very, very, very tall tower, but the game, the PSX can't render a tall tower and the ground far below. Although they could have done like a skyblock or something. So instead, you're at the top of a tower, and the tower goes down just a little ways, and then just descends into inky blackness. Mm-hmm. And it's so cool. It's so soundstagey. Mm-hmm. I really, really adore it. And then the same thing when you're in that snowfield, like the quote unquote skybox is black screen, and even like it's not even just the skybox. Like if you were to go into first person mode, you would see like the snow walls on the side going up just a bit and then just fading into inky blackness. Like it's really, really, it's just really good looking, man. And the tower climb scene uses all kinds of wonderful camera angles. I love, I don't know why we ever invented freely rotating cameras in video games. It was a mistake. The game tells so much with its really, really, really good camera angles in this game. And also it makes the areas feel so much bigger than they really are, because you can't just walk around and rotate it. Like you have to shift between these top-down views and these first-person views and kind of poke around before you really explore everything. It really helps to flesh out the game's world and trick the viewer into feeling that this large adventure is happening when really you're just walking like 10 feet that way. Yeah. Also, I just can't get over how dumb it is that I just want to go over really quick what we've gone through today. We went through boss battle. And there's a little bit of backtracking, but again, backtracking through areas we've already been through. It's the same stealth it was before. Boss battle against Psycho Mantis. Special little section involving dogs. It's not stealth, it's just a fun little, it's almost like platforming in a way. Boss fight against Psycho Mantis. Some platforming. A boss battle. A torture sequence. A cute little mini game where you have to escape. More cutscenes. A fight scene up a tower. A bespoke mini game where you go down a tower. Another little fight scene to get across a walkway. A boss battle against a helicopter. A boss battle against guys in an elevator because apparently Hideo Kojima and the rest of the team thought that players would get bored in the 1 minute it takes to get from the Hind D fight to the next Sniper Wolf fight. And then the Sniper Wolf fight. Like, it's nonstop boss battles and sequences, and you're like, I cannot remember the last time I moved my little guy in such a way that I avoided a vision cone.
I mean,
it's
honestly,
funny.
I feel like the stealth in this game isn't that great. It's not bad. So I feel like they just sort of knew the big action scenes are cooler, so we might as well lean into that. And with the power of the PlayStation 2, we'll be able to do cooler stealth stuff.
It actually feels much more in line of like when you realize that it's a Konami game. Like these are the guys that made Castlevania. These are the guys that made like Rocket Knight Adventures. These are the guys that make so many amazing action games. This is just an action game. Mm-hmm. Calling it a stealth game, saying it's a certain genre, it's just an action game. The game is about exploring a character that has a specific set of mechanics and a specific method of control, and exploring that in lots of ways, some of which are stealth and some of which are fighting. It's just a weird action game. It's every bit of a weird action game as Castlevania, every bit of a weird action game as Resident Evil. I know that's not Konami. As Resident Evil, as fucking, what's the game I'm trying to think of in my noggin right now?
It's less of a stealth game than, say, The Last of Us.
Yeah. It's also
and people don't call
again,
The Last of Us a stealth game.
It's also less of a stealth game than, again, Metal Gear 2. Metal Gear, this game is literally just a 3D sequel/remake of Metal Gear 2, except I think a big part of it is the 3D. Like, the environments can't be that big because the PSX doesn't have that much power. Like, every sequence or concept in this game, imagine if the level was 5 times as big, much more complex, and had many, many more guards, and just was an actual stealth game, and that's Metal Gear 2, right? This, it's like an action movie with all kinds of different mechanics inspired by a stealth game.
Yeah.
Once you stop thinking of it as a stealth game, the lack of stealth doesn't really bug you. It's just not what you were expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
it
it's
really
a
is
novel.
just an action game with stealth sequences and a visual novel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which makes it even more the progenitor of modern games. Where modern games in many ways sometimes don't have core mechanics or even gameplay loops, so much as they just have a lot of stuff that is largely driven by its story.
Speaking of the fact that this is a movie and a visual novel, I want to shout out Kefka Production on YouTube. They have a Metal Gear Solid the Movie HD full story video that has much more care and attention put into making it feel both faithful to the game and be like a movie than almost any other game movie I've used for notes ever. Like, a lot of times there will be a lengthy codec call that in game you stop and you do it, and then there will be a room full of guards that you have to do stuff through. It will use the gameplay of doing things to sneak past the guards as a background for the codec call to make it like more interesting. It uses several different versions of Metal Gear Solid to get the best version of each of the scenes. So like a lot of the cutscenes are taken from like the PC version. The gameplay is taken from the PlayStation version because it plays the best. And the codec calls might be made up just by him, might be from something else, but their HRD then was available on either the PlayStation or the PC. So don't know where they come from, but it's really, really nice.
I listened to the whole section while I was doing other stuff because I wanted to be refreshed. But I also watched little bits of it as I was listening to it. And I think what they did is like took the got high resolution assets for the portraits, but also just like typed out all the words that they say to have them pop up in really HD text or something like that. It's crazy.
That's cool.
Also, I found it so funny. I happened to be watching when Psycho Mantis is showing off, and they actually have a video of the DualShock 3 rumbling on the ground. It was very cute.
One more memo I want to bring up. Sam, you skipped. You didn't skip past this earlier. You just well, no, I think it was Bernard. Bernard mentioned how this dialogue was, quote, really good, whereas I thought it was really stupid.
I mean, but, it can be both.
Oh, no, a lot of this game is both.
Gear.
But hold on. I had this pulled up earlier and then forgot to, but when you're talking in the bathroom with Meryl, it's on one level, really, really good. But on another level, it goes so over the top that by a certain amount of time into the scene, it has looped past good and into ridiculous. And it's when you meet her in the bathroom and she's like, "You guys are the real heroes. There are no heroes in war. Da 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 da. But Snake, you're a hero, are you? I'm just a man who's good at what he does. There's no winning or losing for a mercenary. That's right. You fight for the people. I've never fought for anyone but myself." Like, every single time she says anything, he immediately is like, "No, I'm gonna turn it around backwards in like a philosophical kind of way." And then after the
after the Psycho Mantis fight, it's just absurd. It's
after the Mantis fight does it even more, yeah.
Yeah, it's what's your real name? Names mean nothing on the battlefield. How old are you? Old enough to know what death looks like.
Yeah, and then I think
I
think it goes on even a little more. Yeah, old enough to know what death looks like.
Any family? No, but I was raised by many people.
Is there anyone you like? I've never been interested in anyone else's life. Like, it's the back and forth of just her asking a normal question, and instead of him answering it, he's like, "Names don't mean anything on the battlefield," or "I'm not a hero." It's, again, like, the fact that it happened, like, the first time, it's, like, a pretty good line. The second time, you're like, man, Snake sure has some snappy comebacks. And by the third time, you're just I was falling out of my seat laughing. It's so... He's so annoying.
He is.
And I really, really, really like it.
Yes. Well, I mean, he is very clearly, like, just avoiding connecting with someone. But it's like, done in a really funny way. Yeah,
it's his adamant refusal to allow someone to get close to him or to have any kind of conversation is so overdone. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Contrast with his, like, phenomenal degree of empathy that he shows with Sniper Wolf.
Mm-hmm. And with Psycho Mantis. Yeah. He's really good at connecting with people when they're dying, so it won't matter in a second.
Yeah.
Whereas Meryl, he's going to have to deal with her for the rest of the goddamn game.
Yes.
And that's all of our own fault, because we played the mini game.
That's right.
Yeah, just in general, this week had a bunch of really great scenes in which people don't really say anything. There were a bunch of times where, like, I'd watch the scene and be like, "That was awesome. I'm not going to put any of that in my notes." So yep. Snake walks to the next room and does something. Like, there's so we already talked about Psycho Mantis's death scene and Wolf's death scene, and then Ocelot has "I'm going to torture you so hard that you'll go back in time to fight me several more times" clip show. Or not clip show, little scene in the game movie. They do it as a clip show, and they show those scenes as he talks about them, which is pretty cool. And then when you pass Meryl's blood on the way back to the communications tower, they do like an in-game clip show and talk about all the different, basically eulogize Meryl, and you call Campbell and you're like, shit sucks, and I'm sad that she's gonna die.
They show her getting owned again, and I'm like, y'all traumatized me with that filmmaking the first time.
They do that thing that we love from, like, bad movies that are trying to pad out their time, where it's like, remember that thing that happened 5 minutes ago?
You know what movie has a really good joke about that?
What?
The Master of Disguise.
Interesting.
Remember
what movie has a really good joke?
It might be the only really good joke in that movie, but I distinctly remember a character says something, and then Pistachio Disguise, he thinks about it and remembers her saying that, and then asks if she remembers when she said that, as though, like, do you remember back when you said that thing about blah blah blah, and it's delivered well, which is, it might be the only good joke in that movie.
And it's again immediately after she said it.
Yes, yeah. Literally, it's the next line.
That's a really funny joke. Yeah, that's great.
You say that that's the only funny joke in that movie. Are you saying the movie's not turtly enough for you?
I believe believe deep down in my heart that movie actually rules and doesn't suck, and I refuse to ever watch it again because I don't want to put that opinion to the test.
I watched it in after college, so sometime in the last 10 or so years. Because me and my sister Tina were going to do a podcast called How's It Holding Up, where we watch a bunch of the movies that we had on VHS that we like burned holes in because we watched them so much. One of which was Master of Disguise, and so for our pilot episode that we recorded, we watched it, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't nearly as good as I remember it, but it was not as bad as some of the other movies that we ended up watching for that podcast that never came out.
Anyway, this is a podcast about Metal Gear Solid.
Yes. To properly segue, one of those movies you watched all the time was Balto, which is about the Iditarod. And I love the fact that for the last 5 years, Snake has just been raising dogs for the Iditarod in Alaska. And
as you do.
If Konami really wants to revive Metal Gear with this project, they need to make a dog sledding game about Snake's 5 years off.
And it's not just a dog sledding sim where like it's an incredibly deep recreation of the act of sledding dogs. No, you raise the dogs, you feed them, you breed them, you do the whole
Go full
shit.
Death Stranding with it.
Yes.
You have to like make everything, like the rope or like their harnesses. You have to craft all of those. And when I say craft, I don't mean video game crafting mechanic where you throw some items into a menu and you get out a thing. I mean, you have to like not whittle. You have to like cut the wood. You have to do weird stuff like motion control or joystick stuff to make to make I don't know how to make a rope. Okay,
you grab each of the handles for the controller, like they're two handles on a valve type thing, and you rotate your hands around wheels on the bus sort of way, and that's you making rope, is twining it around like that. That's what I want.
I would play this game. I would play this game so hard. And then a character shows up like a character shows up. His name is like Big Dick Man.
I was going to say Dog Sledman, but Big Dickman is great too.
I was waiting for you to finish that joke, but apparently Big Dickman was what tickled you enough to laugh that hard.
Sorry. Look, if you thought I was going to come up with a smarter joke, I should have been making a joke about something besides the Hideo Kojima game.
Fair.
Oh.
It's weird that these games are really deep and intelligent also.
Yeah.
I will say, I'll save these thoughts for the final episode, but this first game has a lot more intelligence and depth to its script. It's got a lot more of the themes that appear later in the series than I thought. Which is really, really cool, actually. There's a lot more going on with this game's like socio-political commentary than, I definitely thought of that as something that the series evolved as it went on, but it's largely there. Sometimes slightly hard. It's got a bit of a hard edge to it right at the beginning.
Well, anything else before we wrap up?
Big dick.
That'll do it for the week. If you like what you heard, you can head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where now you can find a link to our link tree. We are now on a shitload of social medias. We'll probably be the most active on Threads and co-host, because that's where I and Bernard landed.
We'll probably be the most proactive people on Threads. I'm not on it, but apparently it's lame.
It is.
Yeah.
But I like that Sam is active on Threads, and I will be active on co-host once we're through our signed up waiting period. I checked today and we weren't there yet.
But that's where we'll be hanging out the most. But We also have a Instagram and a Mastodon, and whenever Siri suggests that I check Instagram or Mastodon, it reminds me to go and do some interaction there. But yeah, we'll have links to all of that are now in our link tree, which you can access at www.rpgbook.club. And while you're there, you can donate to help us pay for hosting costs, game costs, and various subscription costs that we have to do to keep the lights on around here. And if you want to sign up for a monthly donation, you can join one of 3 tiers. So you can sign up for the Gadabout tier, which is everyone who pays $1 or more a month. This will get you access to the Book Club no Kaseki episodes a month before everyone else, and let you vote on our polls to decide what we play for our next game. We're coming up in 3 or 4 weeks on a new poll, so if you want to tell us what to play next, you can go and donate there. If you level up to the Warrior tier is at $5 or more a month, and you'll also get your name shouted out at the end of every episode, just like this. Shoutouts to Cerebral Wind, Floris, Kaldron, Freddie Rodriguez, Aaron524, Vimk, JFro Prime, and Doho. And then finally, we have the Luminary tier, which is for everyone who loves us so much that they pay us $20 or more a month. Then they also will get a 1-sentence shout out to make me say whatever they want. So shout outs to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shout outs to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, a game review website for people like us, by people like us. And also shout outs to Carr, who's a dentist. So he's not shouting out his Twitch stream, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm Bernard.
And I'm Addy Grace Webb, and I was going to think of a Dumpy Dick Kozma name, but I couldn't think of one in time. Sorry. Man.
Someone once said that for women, your Hideo Kojima name is the most condescending thing a man has called you. This is when Death Stranding came out, and people were called like Quiet and Mama and Fragile.
Oh, I'll get that ready for next time.
Okay.
And I'm Big Dickman. Toodaloo, folks.
Gamer.
Remember how there was a port of Metal Gear Solid 3 for the 3DS?